Welcome to the Beautiful Game Plan podcast, produced by Focus Shift Films and sponsored by Welsh sports fans. I'm your host, Daniel J. Harris. I'm a filmmaker and entrepreneur working across sport, and I'm a huge fan of sports content. This podcast is my chance to meet amazing people who are doing amazing things in the sports content space and to share their stories with you in the hope that it inspires ideas. On today's episode with the amazing Andy Scott, who is head of entertainment at Zigzag Productions, as a former producer on shows like Banzai, as well as executive producer on Player Pranks and Ultimate Goal. Andy, welcome to the Beautiful Game Plan podcast. First of all, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your career to date?
Oh, hello. Thanks for having me, Daniel. So I'm getting long in the tooth now, and I've been in the business for about 30 years. I've been a producer of many kinds of entertainment over the years, and more recently a sports content producer. But I've started off in comedy and done a lot of work with famous comedians over the years. People like Ali G and Ricky Gervais have been included in that. And then I've worked with a load of other comedians who wear football boots and done some content with them. So yeah, it's been really fun. I've started a new venture now, Baby Wolf Productions, focusing on digital content. So it's a new adventure. So I am still working with Zigzag, but I'm also doing my own thing too.
Fantastic. And you say you kind of started in comedy and some of those prank shows, and you were one of the producers on Banzai, which was one of the most talked about format shows of its era. I was at the Media Cymru Global Formats event a few weeks ago, and everyone was talking about how at that time everyone wanted Banzai or a version of Banzai. So what was it like working on that show? It looked weird and wonderful from the outside.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. It was so it was a show that was based on weird Japanese game shows to the point where we even used to film it and then convert it into Japanese NTSC and back to PAL again, so that it looked like it had really come from Japan, but it was all filmed in England, obviously with English celebrities. So we spent ages thinking of, right, okay, we can get Aled Jones. What should we do with him? Oh, let's do Walking in the Air with Aled Jones. So how do we do that? We tie him to weather balloons and see how many it takes to make him take off. And I remember that was one of the things. So he was tied to a number of different massive weather balloons, and he actually took off, and he was tethered to the ground, thankfully. Otherwise, the Welsh legend Aled might have just gone off to
Walked off into the air.
Yeah, gone off to wherever. Yeah, but yeah, that it was always just let's think of something weird. Let's think of a celebrity. Neville Southall was another one we had on there.
Big Nev, great.
Yeah,
legend. Just as well.
Just mad stuff. So it's just think of anything completely weird. How many satsumas weighs the same as a celebrity's nether regions, or how many cans of Coke will balance against Shaun Ryder on a seesaw. Just sort of amusing ideas like that, and then it's just executing them and making them fun. In fact, they're a bit like the sort of short form content that we see today, because it was all really short stuff.
Yeah.
And actually the kind of stuff people talked about a lot. So yeah, a lot of those ideas
that would go viral now, wouldn't it? Do you mean that's the stuff that it would be a short 2-3 minute clip on social media. It then gets 1 million shares and 3 million likes and goes viral.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was before that kind of ability to share in that way, but people didn't share. They just kind of sat around at home after the pub and watched it and had their own mini gambles with each other in their sitting rooms about what was going to happen and who was going to win. So yeah, it was a top fun show to work on. Absolutely.
And then you kind of go on to Player Pranks. Did you take a lot of the stuff you learned from shows like Banzai and then bring them into the sports arena with the sports stars kind of as much fun to play with, or were there any kind of egos you come across? Someone didn't like the pranks that were played on them?
Actually, everybody, without exception, really enjoyed the pranks when once they were revealed to them. So that I wasn't really scared of that because actually I did a lot of hidden camera shows over the years. Banzai wasn't a hidden camera show, and they used to be so much harsher, the things that we used to do to people, because that was what the appetite the public had used to be. And actually, the harsher you are, the funnier it kind of is, as long as people have, you see that moment when they find out it's not true. So I was responsible for the boy band Blue seeing their mate Simon Webb go off a cliff in a caravan, and they all thought he died in a horrible accident, but of course he'd reappeared from a hay bale behind him straight afterwards, and everyone was laughing. Sorry, someone's calling me. Just get rid of this. So those kind of things are not going to be possible to do. Those kind of cruel pranks are not the kind of thing you can actually do to a Premier League footballer. Well, it's very unlikely to be allowed. So there were mild things we were doing. We were getting Jermaine Genius's car and covering it in Arsenal graffiti with a really cool YouTuber called Josh Peters, who's a big pranker. He actually did the Katie Hopkins joke where he gave her a C-star NT of the Year award,
Yes.
and she stood in front of it. And anyway, he had good pedigree in pranking. So with that, we found out from Jermaine Pennant that JJ had got this new car, and we just cooked up this idea that while he was playing golf, we would cover his new car with Arsenal graffiti, and it really worked a treat because he just believed it was completely real. Obviously, you could take it off without any damage to his car, but it was just this really cool stuff you could get that sticks electrostatically to a car, so it looks like it's like stuck on there.
Nice.
And we had like actors and people, and then we had Micah Richards and Adam Smith from Sky Sports there as the hosts, and they would run out and reveal it. And as soon as there was a revelation, it's been a prank. I think footballers do this stuff in the locker room to each other, although they do more just daft things that are really quick, that aren't as elaborate, but they're used to that kind of gag. So once they find out it's a prank, they think it's funny.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I
you
think
know,
Gaza was the king of the pranks, wasn't he? There's the story of putting two fish in someone's car, and
yeah.
he said like, well, when they find the first one, they think they've got rid of the smell, so they don't realize they've got a second one. So yeah, I think footballers have got a little bit of pedigree for winding each other up and playing pranks on each other. And I suppose when it's revealed it's a prank, there's a sense of relief. Then, oh, thank Christ, that brand new car I've just spent however much money on isn't completely ruined. I'll be able to drive it home at the end of the day.
And I won't need to drive it home with Arsenal stuff all over it as well. If you're
Yeah.
Jermaine Genius, which is what he thought for a minute. So yeah, it was like I think Carragher. We pranked him into thinking that Liverpool had sold the naming rights to the stadium to a company called Huaya, and and it was written on screen, and then he thought that was what it was called now, but he only really thought it was that for like a moment, and then yeah, he was funny. Cammy was brilliant as well. He thought it was hilarious. We took him on as he was annoyed, and then when he revealed it, he was fine again. He thought it was hilarious because we took him on this mad taxi journey where he just thought this driver was a prick and kept taking him to meet his mates and to buy sandwiches and driving around the same roundabout 15 times and things like that. So he thought he was going to be late for this important meeting for Ninja Warriors. So yeah, it's just about sort of picking the gag. If you know a bit, so Cammy's son had told us that he hates being late for meetings. So he's like, okay, that's easy. We're going to just pick him up for a meeting that doesn't really exist, and then don't get him to the meeting. And
Yes.
Mike and Smithy are following behind in a chase car, really laughing their heads off. So seeing them two laughing at it so much kind of makes the viewers laugh as well, because laughter's infectious, and yeah, they're both just pissing themselves, so it's fun.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a little bit of research in there, so it's not just random prank and random player. It's okay, what would really annoy this player? How can we play on that? So yeah, there's a little bit of thought goes on behind the scenes before you start.
As much as possible, but because of the sort of tricky nature of booking footballers as well. So we did this one with Jill Scott, right? And we had a bit of foresight, because actually we did it before the Euros, and we're thinking England could do well here, Lionesses. And anyway, but no one knew what was going to happen. But we booked Jill Scott to be pranked with this quite fun trick, because we knew she had a coffee shop in Manchester, and we were pretending to trick her with this like fake coffee products that turned out to be a magic coffee thing. Anyway, you need to watch it. I'm not going to explain it now. But then straight afterwards, we said to her, right, who else can we get? And she was like, get Steph Horton, get Steph Horton. And we were like, okay, brilliant. And we had a second gag ready, which was an exploding pen. So you could do that pretty much to anyone. But it was just like, Steph, come in. You're going to sign an England top that's been signed by Beckham, and it's been signed by even Bobby Moore and people like that, who you could never get the signature for again. And then she gets this pen and she tries to sign it, and it goes all over and ruins the shirt. And she fell for that. And Jill was basically there setting it up and pranking her. So it's like passing the prank on. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that one was produced on the spot, because we had access to St George's Park. We were in there. The Lionesses were there training. And it was just like Jill could just text Steph and say, come down and do this shirt signing with me, and you need to come down. And then it's done on the spot.
Yeah, and I suppose you play into those players that like to play pranks on each other, and yeah, you get one of them and go, "Who's next? Who would you like to get?" And very easily go from one to the other, and they all line each other up because they want to see the next one get done as well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's interesting with the player pranks, because it was a TV series for Sky. And then um, they were like, oh, we're not going to go again for the TV. It's too big a budget, etc. But the digital team at Sky were like, we need more of these. They're blowing up. They're all over the place. So it's like, well, yeah. So for digital, they work brilliantly. So they normally get about 15,000 for a lot of their YouTube stuff. These things were getting 500,000 and whatever, these pranks. So there's like a lot of value in rankings and footballers on social, on digital stuff. So yeah, we're hoping to try and do more of those if we can.
Well, that is, if you're looking at things that do well online, like we talked about Banzai being effectively short form content in a TV show. Pranks work really well. You've got the setup, do you know what I mean? You've got the gag, and then you've got the aftermath of it, whether they're happy or annoyed. But they're short form, they're fun. So people watch them, nice and easy watch, like it, comment, share. It gets passed around amongst other people. And then you've also got that cut through with the footballer, because if it's Jamie Redknapp or it's Michael Richards or it's David Beckham, they've already got an audience out there that are kind of looking for content with them. And then the comedy element means you've got a little bit of a double whammy there on social media, haven't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah, the David Beckham statue prank must have been watched so much. I've not even looked at the numbers for it, but yeah, that was a really big one.
It was a terrible, terrible statue as well. And
It
watching
yeah.
him look at it, and he was kind of like, you could see in his face, he was thinking, Jesus, this is going to be up there for all eternity, and this is meant to be me.
I know. I wish they would have put the statue in position where it was actually supposed to be permanently, instead of showing it to him in a studio. They probably had
Yeah.
like practical reasons for that, but that would have been better, I think, if they could have had it outside into Miami or wherever it was going to be.
Riverside Sports Bar with Welsh sports fans is Newport's premier sports bar and has been voted best sports bar at the Welsh Hospitality Awards. With a range of huge TVs, an incredible food menu with burgers, dirty fries and much more, including vegan options, it is the place to watch sport. Visit www.riversidesportsbarnewport.com to find out more.
I have to say though, booking the players to be pranked, I mean, it was only really possible for us because we could say to them, it was Michael Richards's prank show, and that
Yeah.
he would like be there and he would diffuse it, because it's not so much the players, it's the agents
Yeah.
terrified, because if they're thinking, well, what if I do this prank to my player and he sacks me,
Yeah.
lost a
Or
fortune.
or he says or does something which is kind of not acceptable, and then that's captured on film. And I think for an agent, yeah, there's a whole host of worries there, aren't there? But yeah, I think when you're booking the players, everything goes through the agent, and you've got to convince them that this isn't going to ruin their relationship with their player or their player's career. And so I suppose anything too harsh on them doesn't make it past the idea stage either, then, does it?
No, it really can't. It's got to be a good laugh. You've got to think about it. What would it be like to be done to you? So nothing with like weapons or prostitutes or anything like that would be would be possible. Even though I think you'd get extreme viral hit with something really harsh. It just
Torpedo your own career as well as theirs.
it'd be the last prank you ever make if you did that. Yeah. So
So
yeah.
on the opposite end of the scale, then you've also been an executive producer on Ultimate Goal, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, kind of female football hopefuls training and playing, trying to win themselves a professional contract.
Mhm.
Kind of how different was that then? Because you're not kind of, it's not short form, having a little bit of fun, playing a prank on somebody. It's showing the hopes and dreams and ambitions of these players that are putting everything into building a career. That's very different sort of content, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think with that, the thing that was great for us was that the broadcaster, both broadcasters, BT Sport and Insight, they didn't want some kind of fake reality competition. Now, obviously, when I say fake, so yes, we gathered together 30 female players and we put them into an academy for 10 days, right? That's fake. It wasn't going to happen until we said it was going to happen.
Mm.
But what we didn't do is say someone's going to get a professional contract at a team as the result of this. We didn't say that's the prize, because we can't award that to anybody. They have to come down there and they get the benefit of some really brilliant sessions and brilliant coaching from genuine pros. You know, we had amazing names on both series, but actually the players themselves have to perform really well, and they get viewed by scouts. That's all we can really do as a production, is we can say, look, we're going to tell everyone we're going to have scouts from quite a lot of big teams down there, from the WSL and even from Barcelona and places like that. We're coming to watch them. And after that, some of them got contacted and some of them got careers out of it and got different moves, you know, in football, and it helped them. And the ones who didn't get any professional moves were helped because they had this experience of training with Lucy Bronze, or training with Jill Scott, or training with Ria Ferdinand, you know, people like that. And it's an experience for them. So I think it was just a genuinely, it's not like those realities where we say, oh, you're going to win this prize and now you're going to be playing for Man United as a striker. No, you're not, because you're going to get one, you know, like coaching session, and that'll be it, would be the reality. So it's, yeah. So I think the authenticity of it was brilliant. And the fact we were allowed to do it at St George's Park as well really helped, because it's such an experience to be there.
I think with that series as well, it came just before the kind of women's football boom, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think if because you only did the two series, didn't you? Do you think if that series had come out now, it'd be even bigger, or do you think it was done at the right time?
Well, we started it at the right time, definitely, and it was the wrong time in terms of it being COVID. So that was a nightmare, because we kept being threatened by, you know, somebody could get a sniffle during the camp and we might have to shut the whole
Yeah.
academy. That was super scary, that because we had everyone gathered, and it was at the time where literally, everyone was tested and bubbled and everything. But if someone had just got it then in the middle of the day 3 or something out of 10, it would have, killed it. So, but the benefit of doing it then was, we were able to book Eni Aluko and Rachel Brown-Finnis, and, we were able to get top talent that BT Sport were putting on there and helping us with. Lucy Bronze came down, all these great people from the women's game were there. And they were doing it because there wasn't anything else like that yet. And I don't know now, if you said you wanted to do it, whether everyone, I think they would. I think they'd still come, but it might be that there's probably other things by now that are emulating it a little bit. We are still keen to do it again. The reason it didn't go again was because of BT Sport turning into TNT Sport. There wasn't an automatic sort of carry on of previous business, and BT Sport, if it had stayed as it was, would have done it again, and we'd have made 3 series by now. But it's not happened, probably because of that reason.
Yeah, I would say it looked like a great series. Do you know what I mean? Kind of giving female players that opportunity to showcase their talents on a major broadcaster. And like you said, some of them got opportunities. Some of them learned and kind of grew during the process. So I'm sure it was really useful to those that got involved. Just to move forward a little bit to something you've been working on recently. So Zigzag Productions have produced Defoe, the Amazon original film that's on Amazon Prime, all about Jermaine Defoe. I was lucky enough to edit the trailer for you guys and for Kaleidoscope, and I thought it was a lovely film, and I think Jermaine Defoe comes across really well in it. What was it like kind of for Zigzag Productions putting that together and working with Jermaine on that story? I know you weren't one of the producers that worked directly on there, but as a production company, what was it like to work on a project like that?
Well, I think it was brilliant for the company, and I know the director, James. I think he got a really good interviews with Jermaine, very honest. Jermaine opened himself up and talked frankly about not just football, but difficult parts of his life, and not just the obvious things about his life either. It was pretty much everything. He had a hard relationship with his dad. There was trouble with the paparazzi that he had over the years. There was this tragic story of Bradley Lowry, and all of it. He had a lot of things to talk about, and it didn't feel in any way like it was, overstretched, because there's plenty to go through his life. There was plenty to talk about, and he, I think, came across really well in it. Everybody's been really happy with it, how it came out. I think it's actually a great watch for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely film, and I think he's one of those characters that maybe a lot of people thought they knew about him from what they've read in the press, but when you see the film and you see kind of the misrepresentation of him in the press, and you see the relationship he still has with Bradley Lowry's mother and how he still kind of supports them and their charity, and the other things that he's been through during his life. It was his cousin kind of passed away, and there was a few tragedies he had across a certain period, and they coincided with things that were happening on the pitch, and you kind of understand why maybe he left an England camp, or he kind of wasn't quite there in terms of that performance. And it almost felt cathartic. Do you know what I mean? He kind of reached this point in his life now where his playing career's kind of come to an end, and he's looking back on it all and telling his story and filling in the blanks for people that assume they know him from what they've read in the newspapers. So yeah, I think he come across really well in it, and hopefully it kind of it did give him that catharsis. Do you know what I mean? Because it sounds like there's things that he hasn't spoken publicly about before, and there's an important story there to tell. Do you know what I mean? A young man that came from a kind of a poor background with limited opportunities, but through the right people like that, the coach that he had when he was in his junior team, supporting him and the support he had from his mother, he's gone on to have a fantastic career. So yeah, I thought it was a really nice film.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, everyone was happy from our team. So yeah, it was great. I think there's been a big boom in documentaries about sporting personalities. I think, 10 years ago, unless it was like, maybe Lineker or Gascoigne or something, you'd have a hard time getting one of these made. But now there's so many of them coming out. Some of them make more sense than others. When you see them, you're like, oh, right, why is there a whole documentary about this player? But I think with Defoe, you do get it. Yeah, it was a good one.
Well, that's it. And I think, like we talked about earlier, sport, there's a kind of real great way of connecting people, and there's already an inbuilt audience. So, as a content creator, as a filmmaker, as a program maker, you're always thinking about who are your audience, what do they want. If you're creating something completely new, you've got to try and tap into an audience. They've got to understand what your show is, what your brand is, and bring them in. But with a sports documentary, there's already an audience there that know a little bit about that person or that period of time or that story. And then you're providing them with greater depth, more detail, a different angle on it or something like that. And I think that a lot of commissioners are realizing that. Like I know I spoke to BBC Wales a few years ago and they were like, oh, we don't think sports documentaries work. Whereas now they've got a series of individual kind of sports stories. Because I think they've realized that if you're trying to connect people from opposite ends of the country, opposite ends of the social economic scale, completely different age groups. One way you can bring them together is through sports content. So if you are trying to connect with an 18-year-old in Cardiff and a 65-year-old in Llangefni, they might not have that much in common. But Welsh football or Welsh rugby would be that opportunity to bring them together. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of sports documentaries out there at the moment. But you can't be lazy with it and just go, I've got access to this person, I'll tell this story. There's got to be some depth to it. And I think Jermaine's had that depth because he was a bit of a misunderstood person who hadn't told his story in that much detail before. And I think hopefully there'll be more of them because as a sports fan, I love watching sports documentaries. There's so many amazing stories get thrown up in sport, things that you could never script. And telling those stories through a sports star or a sports event or kind of one of these underdog stories where they were never in a month of Sunday should they ever have won, but they did win, or that person has overcome something to achieve something. You've got those highs and lows that you need in storytelling as well. So yeah, I think sports a fantastic place for doing stuff like that. Have you guys got anything else in the sports arena at the moment that you're working on at Zigzag?
Well, we've got a football series that we've been making for children's BBC called the Football Academy, which is it's a documentary series about the children of the Southampton FC Academy, which we've made 2 series of, and we're hoping to make a 3rd one. We're talking about that. And there are a number of other single documentary ideas with other sports personalities that we're pitching. We're trying to get made. The tricky bit with those is often like you just said about Defoe needing to have quite a lot of depth to the story. You need to be able to talk to the sports personality about the idea of the documentary. You need to have a broadcaster with a serious potential interest in that. You need to talk a little bit about facts and figures about how much they're going to get paid and things like that with them. But then you need to also be able to go back to the broadcaster and say, this player is going to talk about all these aspects of their life and career. And then that'll get the broadcaster to buy it. So it's a real juggling act between being serious when you're talking to the player and being serious when you're talking to the broadcaster and not doing them in the wrong order. So it does take a while to get those things to work.
Exactly. You've got to give the sports person peace of mind that you're the right person to tell their story and you're going to tell it right. You need to have enough of their story to be able to go and tell the broadcaster where that depth is going to come from. And sometimes it's a little bit chicken and egg, and bouncing back and forth between them with informal conversations, whilst you dig a little deeper on both ends to try and find the right angle for each of them.
Yeah, definitely, all of those things. Yeah, it's a slow process. It takes time, and yeah, you need to know that. I mean, it's hard because for someone at a broadcast to say, "Oh, right, yeah, well, they're going to have to talk about this complicated moment from their career, probably not even just as an upsetting sport moment, but something like their divorce or something they didn't really want to talk about."
Yeah.
And you have to guarantee that they will talk about that. That's going to be tricky. You know, you have to negotiate all this stuff. Yeah, some of it's based on how they feel whilst they're there.
Yeah, and getting anything away could be a slow process. So let's dive back into your new venture then. So you're talking about short form content, you're
Yeah.
making lots of TikTok content, you're looking for sports content, and that's more quick turnaround, viral stuff. So what sort of things are you doing in the new venture?
Anything that's for TV that would be considered short form or mid form. So it could be podcasts, it could be pieces of content that are going to live on a broadcaster's digital platforms. So 8-10 minute pieces. They can still be formats that would have been longer TV formats. So they can be things that are essentially hopefully going to lead to being a TV format later. And we're going to try them out in a smaller, lower budget way. So all of that kind of thing. Also, I've done historically football content for our children's BBC show. So we did some stuff with Mary Earps last year, did some stuff with James Ward-Prowse, we did some stuff with Liv Cook, who's a freestyle champion, that kind of thing. So it's more of that kind of formatted content, or mini documentaries is what I'm trying to do. So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and like you said, there's an opportunity there to work with a lower budget on a short form bit of content to see if it works, to see if it lands, to see if there's something bigger there. And then that can be used as springboard to then pitch a TV show, a feature film from our short form content. We did this with this person, it got X amount of views. It shows that not only the content works, but there's an audience there for it and there's engagement. All those things are useful when you're pitching to anyone, whether it's TV, film, or any form of content, really, isn't it? So you're basically collecting that information and having that in your arsenal to go and pitch to a TV broadcaster or one of the streaming platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, also, I'm very interested in having a digital only format that recurs, you know, so a good video podcast that I could shoot, you know, ongoing. That's something I'm really looking to find, or even a kind of entertainment format featuring sports stars that can be shot regularly, not exactly like fantasy football, but you know, a more junior, small version of it for digital, things like that are just fun. Anything like that, I'm kind of on the scout for and pitching actively into it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll get my thinking cap on because across my career, kind of done a lot of digital content, created a lot of stuff for the Welsh FA. So whatever campaigns they've got kind of set up, or whether they're trying to drive their audience across to something, we created short form content that helps them explain the campaign or helps engage with the audience or helps drive traffic across to something. So I've got a lot of experience in that space, and like I say, I love sport and love making sports related content. So yeah, I'll get my thinking cap on and I'll come back to you with a couple of ideas, I'm sure, and we'll see if they land with you.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's do it. That'd be good.
Fantastic. So yeah, so just like to kind of thank you for your time, Andy. It's been brilliant to chat to you. Do you want to just tell the people where they can find out a little bit more about your new venture if they've got any ideas they'd like to pitch?
Sure thing. My company is Baby Wolf Productions. The website is babywolf.productions. Take a look.
There we go. Nice and simple there for the people at home. So thank you very much for your time. It's been fantastic chatting to you, and thank you to those at home that have watched or listened. Thanks for indulging us. Hopefully you've been entertained or informed, and you've enjoyed yourself. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and share this episode and subscribe to the channel for more content.